This is Spaceman Jones with a smoke break, and we are proudly sponsored by Earthy Now and Urban Combat Wrestling.
This is good morning, y'all. This is Spaceman Jones with a smoke break, and I have a very special guest on that you've been noticing over the past few weeks. I've been having a lot of my friends that I deal with every day, just about every week on. And this is my guy, man. This is Stu Helm, um, the food fan. Me and Stu have known each other for some years, mainly dealing like collaborating on different food projects. We worked together in a company for a while, and I'm glad to have you on this morning. How you doing, Stu?
I'm doing great, Dave. Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man, we appreciate you, man. And today, I thought that we would talk about something that's near and dear to both of our hearts. The smoke break is like a pause so that we can find out which ways that we need to go in order to become our best selves. And I always like to invite a little bit of sanctity, a little bit of spirit in here, so we'll just take a time to kind of ground and center and kind of get some good vibes in here for a minute. Um, and we'll take a round of 10 breaths. I like to do this a lot. It's a good clearing exercise. So you just get comfortable and kind of close your eyes and just do 10 breaths. You know,
Okay.
simple and easy. All right, let's get it going.
All right. You count them off, Dave.
One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, and 10. All right.
Dave. 10
Man,
seconds with two guys breathing. That's awesome.
that's it, man. And I invite everybody to continue to because we use everything that we use on the smoke break. We use it in the practical ways. And I like to bring a little bit of meditation to the people, so if we can do it together, then maybe that's something they can take into our lives. We want to take a little bit of time to give a shout out to my hemp sponsor, Earthy Now at earthynow.com. And this morning I am enjoying some of their White Widow from Road Family Farm. 15.1% CBG, some tasty stuff. Always nice and calm, and it's like some medication for me. And also a shout out to Urban Combat Wrestling, who is our other sponsor, and we are definitely for the culture. All right, Stu, we got all of that out the way, man. You have a deep relationship with food. You
I
built
do.
a lot of your life around food. So if you want to give a segue into kind of an introduction into who you are and an introduction into how you use food as like it's a real touchstone in your life.
It is, Dave. And you alluded to the fact that you and I worked for the same company for a little while, and hopefully we will again when this COVID stuff is over with. But we do food tours. We work with Asheville Food Tours. So I can kind of give you my introduction speech that I give to my tour guide,
Yeah,
to my
that's
tour
Stu.
takers. Now, I've been a working artist most of my life. I went to art school. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree, and I put that to work as an illustrator for 20 years. Got paid to draw pictures. It was wonderful. Along the way, I moved to Asheville, brought my career with me. I worked at home in a home studio, so I would go out to eat a lot. And I moved here about 15 years ago, and you know that Asheville experienced the food explosion
Yeah,
starting maybe 20 years ago. And I started to eat at all the new restaurants because I worked at home. I want to get out of the house, trying all the new places. My friends asked me to start writing reviews just for Facebook, so I did that, and it was so much fun, Dave, that I basically it's kind of weird. I kind of lost the interest to be a visual artist anymore, and I started to just concentrate on writing about food. Of course, it didn't pay very much, and so I sort of stumbled ass backwards into the job doing food tours, and it was the
yeah,
greatest thing in my life. And I'm happy to say that 6 years after I started writing those Facebook food reviews, I'm pretty much known around town as the go-to food guy.
Yeah, you definitely are. Um, your style is a little bit more, let's say, rustic. Uh, your language is a little bit spicy, but it makes it very real. Could you kind of go into the thought process that you have, like approaching a meal?
Uh,
Um,
well, these days I'm approaching all of my meals in my own kitchen, which is different. I am a good cook and I do like to cook, but like a lot of people, I'm getting a little tired of cooking 3 meals at home and also washing dishes constantly. Oh my
man,
God, Dave. We often talk about the cooks and the chefs who feed us, but thank goodness there are dishwashers in this world.
yeah,
Uh, and But when I go out to eat, I approach meals in a lot of different ways. I mean, we all have our favorites where we don't want surprises. We're just like, either I've had a bad day or I've had a great day, and I want to either comfort myself or celebrate with my favorite cheesesteak in town. And
yeah,
so I approach a lot of foods or a lot of meals from the point of view of what are my favorite foods. And mentioning comfort foods, I approach a lot of foods from how comforting is this meal going to
yeah,
be?
yeah, yeah,
Especially these days, David, not just in the past 30 days, but in the past, let's say, 3 years, I have needed a little bit more comfort from my food. I joke around on my tours that I need a hug from a bowl of grits these days.
yeah, yeah. And your relationship with food, and the way that your relationship with food and the way that you explain it in your blog, um, the thought process that comes from you being able to remember a great meal. Could you walk us through some, like, one of your most memorable meals in the past maybe year?
Oh, that's a great question. And I do say that that is one of the things that we pay for is the memories, especially when we get up into the, triple digits for a
Yeah,
meal. Then we're really like, if we don't have a good story to tell after that meal, it might have not been worth that 150 or up to $500 or whatever you might spend on a super expensive meal. And so memories are definitely a big part of it. Let me talk about one meal in particular that I went to very recently, since you asked for something recent. And it was right before the shutdown. It was my
yeah,
last fancy meal I went to. I got invited, so it was on the house. Thank you very much to 12 Bones and to
uh,
Grace on Feet. And I went and I enjoyed a wonderful group meal with people. And the food was excellent, and I will remember the food. And definitely pictures help me to remember the
yeah,
food, but I will remember the experience probably for the rest of my life. And part of it was that I was the youngest person, and Dave, I'm 53 years old. I was the youngest person in my little circle, and strangers. I didn't go with friends. I didn't know anybody there,
yeah,
and they were so cool and they were so awesome. And the old guy next to me crushed 3 bottles of wine, man. And the two ladies next to me at one point, they turned to me and they very cautiously asked me if I was a Trump supporter. And I said, fuck that guy. And they were like, oh, thank God. And we talked all night, and it was a great meal. So the
yeah.
conversation was a big part of what I'll remember about that meal.
I know that for me, that the emotional component of meals, as you was talking before, like the emotional component of food, the more comforting it is, the more that I want of it. Could you
Uh-oh.
explain? Could you explain, like, um, your emotional attachment to foods? Like I'm trying to get down in there because I know that there's some good stuff because you have such a deep relationship with food. I know that there's a large thought process and emotional process that goes along with it. I'm just trying to understand, like, the emotional points that a certain dish may give you so that you will be kind of connected with it in a deeper way.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that I wrote a review about maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and it was I forget the exact wording of the title, but it was something about why this brunch made me cry, and it was just a really fucking good brunch, Dave, and a tear came out of my eye. I joked around in the article that I wiped it away with my middle finger and was refusing cry in public, you know. But it brought a tear to my eye. And it was at Buxton Hall Barbecue. And it was a very special, I don't get a lot of chance to eat brunch because I am often working during the brunch hour. And so I had a chance to eat their brunch, which is off menu from their usual shtick. And people who eat at Buxton will know they have a fairly limited menu. And so when they go off menu, it's a treat. And man, I was just eating this food, Dave. And one thing that gets me emotional is the feeling of being fortunate. And so I felt really fucking fortunate to be eating Chef Elliot Moss's family recipes, the recipes of his cooks, who he allows to have creative expression in the kitchen, to be a person who grew up in the North eating Southern food of such a high quality, and eating food that I could see the name of the farm written on the wall. I just felt really lucky. And I felt like, oddly enough, Dave, and this is the first time I realized this, I feel a lot of times like, you know, your luck is going to run out, you know, so you feel like, I better enjoy it while I can. Excuse me while I lean over here and wipe away a tear with my middle finger, Dave.
Yeah, man. This is good. This is what I've been looking for in a conversation about food for a long time. We talk about the taste. We talk about how it's presented, but we don't talk about how it makes us feel. You know?
Oh, that's interesting, Dave. That's awesome that you want to talk about that. And I apologize for displaying my emotions, but often, like Dawn, my girlfriend Dawn and I were hockey fans, right? And so they always interview the hockey players after a game, and they always say the same fucking shit. We got to get more pucks in the back of the net. We got to be more aggressive. So they always ask them what they need to do. They never ask them how they feel.
Yeah.
How do you feel? You know, like, I feel terrible or whatever. You know, it's like it could be so much more interesting if they would just ask them how they feel. So thank you for trying to get at people's feelings. But yeah, I do feel very emotionally about food. I feel fortunate. I feel privileged. You know, I guess they're the same thing in a lot of ways. And that's only the second time that brunch was only the second time that a tear came out of my face because of food I was eating. And the other time was in Italy. I ate a piece of like this amazing piece of lasagna, which is kind of an Americanized piece of Italian food, but here it was in Venice, Italy, and it was the most delicate, beautiful, amazing piece of lasagna, and I just felt like I'll never eat this again. Like this is a one-time deal. And so sometimes I feel emotional that way, the same way that you might meet somebody, like, I don't know, when you're younger, you meet somebody on your school vacation, like during the summer, and then you might never see them again.
Yeah. That's really awesome to hear about some of the experiences that you have had, like emotionally with food. We are in a very dire situation right now with this COVID-19, and a lot of restaurants are struggling right now to keep the doors open. And now they're talking about food shortages because of how the disease has decimated a lot of the meat processing plants and whatnot. In this landscape that we have with all of this terrible stuff going on, what are some ways that you can envision that the food landscape is going to change in the future, like in the next coming months? It's not going to be the same when we come out of this.
No, there might never be a return to normal. You know, things move forward; they never go back. And so we're never going to go back to the way it was before. The new rules are going to be in place for the time being. We're in a period of time, Dave, right now between the disease being here, but there's no vaccine. Now, things will not really improve for us until there's a vaccine. People talk about herd immunity, but it always makes me nervous when people start to refer to each other as a herd. You know, they start talking about culling the herd and stuff like that, and I just feel like I'm going to be culled, you know? Like, I'm not going to be
found the shadow block going on here.
Yeah, right. So we're in a weird period where we don't really know what to do. And you know, on Friday we're coming up to this phase one, and we haven't met all the requirements to go
No,
into.
we haven't. No, we haven't.
So it's more of a political decision or a lot of pressure being put on the governor. I mean, our governor's Democrat in a Republican state, so he's very torn. Um, but I feel like Asheville's done good with our social distancing. But anyways, to get to your question, people are adapting, right? Like I've seen it happen. Like people at first were like, "Well, we'll just close for 2 weeks. You know, we can do that, and then we'll just reopen in 2 weeks." And then people were like, "Holy shit, man, we can't reopen, but we can do takeout and delivery." So some people started doing that, and then some of the restaurants are more equipped to do that. Like Manicomio, they sell pizza and subs. They can do takeout from the window all day long. A place like Vivian, fancy ass restaurant, right? They
Can't
never
do it.
nobody does takeout from Vivian. Come on, you'd be an idiot. But they want to survive, so they're innovating, and they're doing like a market.
They're doing groceries.
Connections to farmers, and that's one way we can help to feed ourselves during any food shortages that might come up. Is we have real solid connections to local farmers, and that's been something that's made our food scene special. And now we're going to find, hopefully, that it makes our food scene strong and resilient.
Yes.
And so, like, Vivian's close by to my house, so once a week they have a marketplace, and Dawn and I have been buying eggs and lettuce, and then some meals to heat and eat at home, such as an entire raw trout, like a local trout,
Wow.
stuffed with herbs and lemons and shit, tied up with string, wrapped in paper. It was beautifully packaged with instructions on how to heat it. Eating a whole fish is a little scary. It had the head and tail and everything.
Yeah.
We followed the instructions, opened it up. It was fucking beautiful. And Dave, it was just like having a restaurant meal at our kitchen table. It was a little different than just getting takeout because we had to cook it. And then it was fresh and hot and hadn't been sitting in a plastic tub overnight or anything like that. So different than takeout, you know. Very
and I would almost imagine that it was even more intimate of a meal, having to share that process of cooking and then the unwrapping and all of that.
Oh yeah, talk about memorable. That is a meal that Dawn and I will remember for 20 years because it happened during this period of time, and it's super special. And not for nothing, I took pictures and posted it on Facebook, so that always helps. But things like that to help the restaurant survive and help the. Another aspect is some of us are out of work and we're broke, but some of us are not and are essential workers and are working harder than ever. And so they need the restaurants. They can't be cooking 3 meals a day for their family. Are you kidding me? They couldn't do that before COVID, and now their kids aren't getting school lunch and shit like that. And so they need the restaurants to be open too. So one thing I've tried to really explain to people is that the restaurants aren't a luxury. They are an important part of our food chain. And one of the reasons the grocery stores ran out of food right away is because everybody stopped going to restaurants. And the grocery stores count on a certain percentage of us eating out all week. And so they stock their shelves accordingly. When people stop going out to eat, it affects the food distribution. And so the restaurants still have their food distribution set up. They just don't have the customers to cook it for. But perhaps they can sell that produce and other stuff directly to the customers.
Well, and a lot of places have taken that on as a business model. I know at one of the big chain restaurants, Texas Roadhouse, you can go and buy steaks and fillets and racks of ribs and chicken and everything that they have back there in bulk. Like you can just buy it. They'll sell it right to you.
Well, props to a chain for innovating, you know.
Yeah.
Like they employ people too, so we can't have them just drop out. As much as I personally don't like or eat at the chains, I understand fully how important they are to food distribution in this country. It's the only choice for a lot of people. So if you don't have chains anymore, like if they were to disappear, it would.
It would be horrible. It would be terrible. It would be terrible.
Yeah.
I don't think that I don't think that a lot of the independent restaurants are set up for the volume that the chains accept.
No, they are not. And I would imagine the chains would have a fairly easy time adapting to the new COVID rules and stuff like that. Because corporations, they set rules and then you follow them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm
What
sorry,
what
Dave. I
have
just wanted to say a positive thing on this topic, which is that I see that the innovations that are happening now will carry over, and that just to make an example, perhaps I'll be able to buy a whole fish from uh, Vivian in the future. When I go there to eat dinner, I can take one home because they innovated that.
yes.
I feel like the innovations might stick.
Yeah, I think that this was a time that brought back a tradition in American homes, like dinner time with the whole family.
Oh yeah,
Um, Seeing that is definitely a tradition in my house again.
yeah.
We eat together, when we used to like eat separately a little bit, or I would cook something and we would kind of nibble on it at. But now we all eat together. It's a thing.
So you
Um,
do. Don and I eat every meal, like every dinner together.
yeah,
We've
yeah,
been
that's
out to
something.
dinner a lot and stuff, but we were also kind of loosey goosey about what time we would eat at home, and I would sometimes eat my dinner, and then she would eat hers and stuff. But
Yeah,
now we eat almost every meal together. It's pretty nice.
that's something that I found out of this COVID-19 situation that has really been a has really been a positive. Is like the repairing and the upgrading of my personal relationships, especially inside of my household. Those have gotten way better. Communication have gotten better, and a lot of those times that we communicate and talk is over the medium of a meal.
Yeah.
We're sitting and we talking and we're eating. Um, what are some ways that you've been able to use food um, in your life to kind of make things a little bit smoother, maybe?
Huh.
Some of those ways.
Well, before the COVID thing, definitely food was often the reason or the excuse to spend time with friends and family. Meet me for lunch was like one of the most frequently said phrases before COVID. And my mom, one of my most frequent lunch partners, and so my mom and I bonded a lot over food over the years. Of course, she cooked for me when I was a kid, and so we have similar tastes in food, but not in lockstep. And so we enjoy having meals together. And that was a way for me to stay in touch with friends and family. I often need an excuse to do one thing. I need one thing to get me to do the other thing.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, I understand that. I have to have a justification.
Yeah.
I
And
have,
food, man, food's a great justification.
it is, and it's one of the most powerful ways to create a sense of community.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. When I do tours, I would tell people, I talk a lot, and I'll talk a lot on the tour, but I'll also step away and let you guys talk to each other because that's part of the fun of food tours, getting to know the other people on the tour. And I always say, and if you don't know what to talk about, just talk about the food.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that sparks conversation and take you to other places. Yeah, the food. Obviously, human beings and food are just tied together, right? And we can't live without it. Although there are those aeritarians, are they called, Dave? Who only breathe.
I don't know about those guys. We like to see them with a 24/7 camera on them at all times to see what's going on.
There's a foot long sub somewhere in 24
Yeah,
hours. You know that,
piece of piece of bacon somewhere.
right? Yeah. So we each have a personal relationship to food. We all have memories of food with other people, good and bad. I often say that we have relationships, especially with trashy foods, that often are not associated with the good times in our lives, but are associated with the bad times. But we
Yeah,
still have good feelings about those trashy foods. Like those were the things that comforted us, even though
but
we.
it helped us through. It helped us make it through. There was things that we could count on. To
Yeah.
get a full stomach, which is like for me, having a full stomach is part of security.
Oh
You know,
yeah. Oh yeah. If you got food,
Way
you're
to
a
secure
well.
if I'm hungry.
Yeah, I agree, Dave. My friend Scott Owen, I think you've met Scott, big hippie dude. He is a farmer as well, like a hippie farmer, grows his own food, sometimes not when he's here in Nashville, but when he lives in Colorado. And he told me that when he had what do they say, a root cellar full of potatoes, he felt like a wealthy man.
Yeah, man, that's how I feel. Especially since we've been. That's how I feel when I open my freezer now. Since we are eating all of our meals at home and are doing like it's like I only order groceries. I don't go to the grocery store anymore. And
Okay.
when I open my freezer and everything is like full, and I know that it's a very very comforting feeling from my childhood. Uh, when the refrigerator was full, it seems like everybody was happy in the house. When
Yeah.
things start getting slim, things start getting tense. So for me, like that measure of food um, is something that really comforts me and gives me a real sense of security. It's almost unconscious. Um,
Yeah. Well,
the
that's
way,
why the phrase food insecurity is
yeah,
used rather than hunger. We still use the term hunger, but it's a little outdated. And now we say food insecurity because you don't know where your next meal is coming from. That's the definition of feeling insecure.
yeah, yeah. It's because
Yeah.
food is so central to our survival. Um, I think that it's very fascinating to look at people's relationships with food. I think that you have a rich, almost romantic relationship with food. I've seen you love to plates before we've had a lot of lunches ourselves, and when Stu takes a bite of something that's delicious, his eyes close and he pauses for a minute. He even sits the fork down.
Yeah, man. I shake my head.
Yeah,
Like, kid, no, no, this isn't that good, is it, man?
yeah,
Is this
yeah,
real? Is this
yeah,
fried
man.
chicken real? Is this fucking are these grits real, man? Like
Yeah,
Sunny Point, you take one bite of those grits and you're just
yeah, and you
like,
gotta pause for a minute. It's the creaminess, it's the
yeah,
corn sweetness, it's all of these things hitting you,
yeah,
and all of these different spots, and I get like goosebumps sometimes, or warm. Like for me, tuna, like ahi sushi grade tuna, when it's really good,
oh yeah,
gives me a rush all over my body, like from the top of my head. It's
that's
like
great.
it's great,
It's fucking excitement, right? Like food is exciting too. That's why people
very,
often say like, "Oh, I need something to look forward to throughout the day." And when you work a 9 to 5, that's your fucking lunch. You look
yeah,
forward to lunch, and that's not like the definition of excitement, perhaps. But when things are more exciting, food can make you feel thrilled, like super excited, and a lot of anticipation around something
yeah,
you're looking forward to. I sometimes describe in my writing a sense of food panic, like you're not going to get something that everybody else is getting.
yeah,
Like it happens
yes.
to me at the food festivals, and then a big line for some samples, and I'm like, motherfucker's going to get the last canapé. So yeah, it's a lot of emotions around food. Jealousy, fuck, Dave.
Yeah,
When I first started writing about food, I got a lot of hateful comments. Right. For one thing, people weren't used to my writing style with all the swears and the emojis and shit, and so people hated that. Or some people, small vocal faction of people. But like I was surprised by the amount of vitriol people hurled at me. Like it was a little different for me. I was as an artist, people fucking loved what I did, so it was
yeah,
totally different. It was my friends and my other and people who were more friendly towards my writing who told me, God, those people are so fucking jealous, man. And I realized, yeah, people are kind of jealous around food because I've experienced that. I hear somebody gets a free meal at a restaurant, and I'm like, those fuckers don't even give me a free meal. What the fuck?
yeah,
And so
yeah.
that's just pure jealousy, and so that jealousy is a strong emotion, and so yeah, food
Food.
touches off the strongest emotions, I think.
Yeah, and jealousy can come over food. I can remember as a kid, me and my brothers would be eating, and I might finish my dessert before theirs, and I'm looking at them, and they still got some of theirs, you know.
Yeah.
And just that relationship with food and wanting it and having it, and I see that a lot of folks kind of regulate the way that they deal with life, with how they deal with food. I know a lot of constant dieters and
Yeah,
people who choosing their. I'm not one of those people. I am on the I'm gonna eat what I want to eat, and I hope that it has some butter in it. You know what I'm saying? And pork fat a little bit. You know what I'm
I
saying?
do. I know exactly what you're saying, Dave. I eat what I want. People wonder why I don't weigh 300 pounds. For some reason, it's always 300 pounds that they wonder I don't. And
Yeah.
the reason is because when I I have a full length mirror in my house, and I can see, oh, I'm starting to get a little chubby, and I'll just ratchet that shit back a little bit.
Yeah.
You know,
And
I
you
don't go
walk.
on a diet. I just don't eat a whole pint of ice cream at night. You know.
And you walk just about everywhere that you go. You are a big you're a big proponent of being a pedestrian.
I am. I am. I have never owned a car. I've never had a driver's
Wow.
license.
Wow.
I've always either lived in a big city that had great public transportation, plus I walked everywhere in the cities. And here in Asheville, I live close to downtown, and until recently, I worked downtown. And so I would just walk to work, and then I would walk for a living doing tours, and then walk home. And so that was a great way to sort of shave off calories, and then I could eat a pint of ice cream and not worry about it. And Dave, since the stay-at-home order, I've had to get out the house and walk around and do shit because I don't have the same incentives. I told you how food's a great incentive. That was
Yeah.
often my incentive to walk someplace. I'll go walk to Vortex and get a donut, right? Like a donut, not healthy, but I
Yeah, but I
walk.
mean you're walking it's gonna be a mile walk to get there and back,
Yeah,
somewhere around in there.
yeah. So I'm a big proponent of walking. I also, I don't like traffic and pollution, and I feel like oil wars have gotten us into a lot of trouble and stuff like that. And I just try to avoid the fossil fuels when I can.
Yeah. But
So yeah, like walking is a big. Walking and food are related to me, as you can see. I
yeah.
walk to get food, and I feel good about eating some foods that I might otherwise not feel good about because I walked there to get them. And
Awesome.
it helps me to really keep in touch with what's on the streets, man. You'd be surprised by how many things you drive past without even noticing, and then when you're on foot, you're like, holy shit, there's a fucking cheese shop right here.
Yeah. Yeah, man. All of those little hidden places I think makes Asheville a very walkable city and like a walkable city with a lot of jewels around. Um,
I
yeah, I wanted to ask you about um, getting about your yard. You are an avid yard worker.
I
Uh,
have a big yard. Very, Dave. I We've been friends in real life, and we're also really good Facebook friends. So I can tell that you know me through Facebook as much as real life because I talk about my yard a lot on Facebook.
yeah,
And you've been over my house, so you've seen my yard.
yeah. And I know how much work you actually like put into keeping it maintained and to making it nice.
Yeah,
So have you without having any kids, you think that you've reached dad status with your yard maintenance?
like honorary dad status,
Yeah,
childless dad. Fuck
yeah,
yeah, call me the childless dad from now on, man. Fuck yeah, Dave.
yeah. Honorary
Absolutely,
dad
man.
status.
I'm out there every day these days because I've got a little more time on my hands. So my yard is pretty manicured these days. But I also love to just watch things grow. So let a lot of things just pop out of the ground. So I have a lot of trees in my yard because
Yeah.
one thing people who mow their lawns don't realize is that if you don't mow your lawn, trees will come out of it. And so I'm not a big fan of having a big open lawn that just is sunny and brutally hot all summer. I would
Kind
rather
of
have
want
a yard full of trees. So I've been growing a ton of trees. Along the lines of not driving and trying not to use fossil fuels, I have what's called a reel mower,
Oh yeah,
REE.
you got to leave it the beaver joint. You got to leave it the beaver lawnmower.
Oh shit, man, that's a good way to describe it. But yeah, exactly. It's got no motor, no nothing.
Yeah.
It just spins around like that. And my yard is a
Make a
quarter of
couple
an
of
acre.
passes. You got to make a couple of passes to make it look good.
No, it's technology has come a long way since Beaver was
Oh
mowing
wow.
his lawn, Dave. The blades do a great job, and it self sharpens. People often say, "Oh, you got to sharpen it." No, it self sharpens, and cut the grass real short. But the only thing is, you can't let your grass grow too long, or it will not go through it. And then you got to bust out the weed whacker and hack it down
Yeah.
a little bit. But right now, my yard looks fucking great, man. I started a moss garden in the
A moss
spring.
garden. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. I hope it works. Moss is fickle.
Yeah. Fickle, kind of like food fans, a little bit fickle.
Well, people can be fickle, Dave. One of my something that I really laugh about when I see it is people will write on Facebook if they're unhappy with a restaurant, they'll be like, "I'm a loyal customer, but I'll never go back." And I'm like, "That's the opposite of being
A
a
loyal customer. Yeah.
Yeah, so people can be very fickle about their food. They can also be very loyal. Like no
Yes, they
matter
can.
how shitty something is, they'll be like, I love it because I grew up with
Yeah. I have items like that in my life. I love McDonald's cheeseburgers.
it.
I love them. I could eat
Rock
a
on, dude.
sack full of them. You know, I know that it's terrible. It's terrible for me, and it's not that good. But it's the emotional connection that I have with that because getting a Happy Meal was a real treat in my childhood. You
Yeah.
know, we got a ton of hamburgers with onions and peppers in them on white bread. You know what I'm saying? We got a ton of those. So
Yeah.
whenever we was able to go to the Golden Arches, and this was back when they cooked the fries in the beef tallow and cottonseed oil, and it was a different, you know,
It was a
it
different
was
world back then. They at the movie theaters they used coconut oil to make the popcorn and shit. It was like
yeah,
it was heavenly.
yeah, just a lot different. So I still get that sense of nostalgia, and sometimes when I'm very stressed out or very sad or just feeling emotional, I will go and get cheeseburgers and
Yeah.
sit in my car and just kind of like, and it gives me a place to hold on to when everything inside is swirling around. I can hold on to that like it's like an anchor, and I can work my way back. And I feel terrible because of it, because they don't make me feel very good. But you know, in that moment is what I need.
It's better than banging heroin.
Yes, smoking a big crack rock, whatever the kids are doing these days.
Nah, it's true, man. My comfort foods are ice cream and mac and cheese, and them shit's not good for you. But when I'm feeling blue, and I'm not talking about like mom's homemade mac and cheese. I'm from fucking Boston, man. We poured it out of a cardboard box,
Yeah,
open the package of powder and shit,
that
and
crack.
that's what comforts me. Like I do love mac and cheese out at the restaurants when people are like, "This is my great grandma's recipe." Like I love that. But when I need comfort at home, it's from a box, because that's what I grew up with. Just like you and your McDonald's.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I mean, like food can get you through hard times, and Dave, like people who have problems with food addiction and shit like that, those are, I feel for those people. Like I don't drink. I had a problem with alcohol addiction, and that was easy to get over because I don't need to drink in order to live. But people need to eat in order to live. So people with food, like heavy duty emotional problems around food, that's some serious shit, man.
yeah, man, it is some serious shit. It's almost like your body's self-defense, self-regulation system is turning against you.
Yeah.
What you need to survive is also like a trap or a prison. But I see a lot of people on the other side of that too, where they are trapped in this idea of body image and um, these sort of pseudo psycho health benefits from eating certain type of ways. You see what I'm saying? And it's like
I
no
do.
joys in the eating of the food. It's like something to be picked over and regulated and counted. And there's no joy. Like, and food is supposed to be joyful.
Dude, I one time was eating a muffin and having some coffee in the cafeteria at the old Green Life back when it was Green Life, and dude walked in and it was morning time, like it was breakfast time, and dude walked in and sat at a table across from me. I could watch him eating, and he was a guy who obviously had a raw diet, and he had a bowl of raw vegetables in front of him: an onion, a pepper, a carrot, I think some broccoli, like just a bowl, not like from the salad bar, just like a fucking onion, dude. And he ate that like a machine. It was like watching a machine put fuel into
Oh, I am
itself.
just
Not an ounce of joy on the dude's face. Like I was like, "Fuck, dude, what the hell?" It's like you just hired a doctor to help you impregnate your wife instead of having sex or something. Like you
yeah.
skipped the good part. Like, come on, man. It ain't about getting the maximum number of nutrients into your body. I mean, that's good too. But dude, there gotta
Got
be
to be some
joy.
kind of healthy, joyful. Like people need to feel good, and food is one of the great ways to feel good. I know. I would feel bad for that guy too. Like just raw dog and an onion. That would be
Oh, I
rough.
feel bad for whoever he has to talk to later.
And he's gonna have hell of a farts too. That raw onion gonna hit his system and give him some bad gas. So
That's
wow.
man. Now, hopefully, that guy just was having a bad morning, and that's why he didn't smile. And his doctor told him to eat a bowl of vegetables, and then he went home and perked up and ate a fucking cupcake or something. You know,
Yes,
like,
son.
hopefully that guy has some joy in his life. But
Yeah.
I do remember looking at him and thinking to myself, I never want to be that healthy. Like, come on.
Yeah.
My mom will say, and she's joking around, but it has a ring of truth. She says, you'll die faster worrying about what you want to eat than you will just eating what you want.
Yeah, it's the worry that'll get you. Most definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. And well, I mean, I think that we have that's all the time that we have for this conversation. Thank you for opening up so much about food. This was
Sure.
not the standard food conversation. We really got into the emotional aspects of eating and having food. And thank you for taking time out. I know that you're a busy guy. You got a lot of things that you're into, and we appreciate it. If you have anything that you want to plug, Stu, your website and whatnot, this is the time to do it.
Thanks for reminding me. I would have forgotten to do that, Dave. But please, people can check out StuHelmFoodFan.com. And right now, I'm doing a series of coloring pages. As I
I
mentioned,
saw
I'm an
that.
artist, and so I've reverted back to doing art. And every day, I'm releasing a new coloring page, and it's for people to laugh at online or actually print out and color in if they have kids at home or adults too. So please check out my website.
Awesome. Thank you, Stu, for coming on, and I hope that we are able to share lunch somewhere in one of these fine establishments soon. Thank you
Yeah.
very much for being on.
Dave,
Everybody, this
I
has
just want
been
to say thank you to you, Dave. I'm sorry, I just wanted to interrupt, so I make sure to say thank you to you and to your audience. And I really, really enjoyed this conversation. It
yeah, man.
was
I enjoyed it.
it was better than the average interview, that's for sure. So I appreciate you and your thoughtfulness, and I also look forward to having lunch someday. And since you've been really careful and I've been really careful, maybe we can increase our group to include each other.
Maybe so, maybe so. And I've been cooking a lot lately, so I'll hit you up
Okay,
when I make a meal. I bring you a portion of some good food. All right,
please.
Stu. Thank you very much. This is has been a smoke break. I'm Spaceman Jones. Y'all make sure y'all take care of each other. Thank you. Check me out next week.
And this has been a smoke break with Spaceman Jones, sponsored by Earthy Now and Urban Combat Wrestling. See y'all next week.